Hello friends, my name is Reverend Mark Coles and I'm based in the Sankey Valley Methodist Circuit. Today my passage is from Luke chapter 8 and verses 26 to 39. I'm reading from the New International Version. Jesus and the disciples sailed to the region of the Gerasenes, which is across the lake from Galilee. When Jesus stepped ashore, he was met by a demonic possessed man from the town. For a long time this man had not worn clothes or lived in a house, but had lived in the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell at his feet, shouting at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the God Most High? I beg you, don't torture me." For Jesus had commanded the impure spirit to come out of the man. Many times the spirit seized him, and though he was chained hand and foot and kept under a guard, he had broken his chains and had been driven by the demon into solitary places. Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "Legion," the man replied, because many demons had gone into him. And they begged Jesus repeatedly not to order them to go into the abyss. Now a large herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside. The demons begged Jesus to let them go into the pigs, and he gave them permission. When the demons came out of the man, they went into the pigs, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. When those tending the pigs saw what had happened, they ran off and reported this to the town and countryside, and the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they found the man from whom the demons had gone out sitting at Jesus' feet, dressed and in his right mind. But they were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people how the demon-possessed man had been cured. Then all the people of the region of the Gerasenes asked Jesus to leave them because they were overcome with fear. So he got into the boat and left. The man from whom the demons had gone out begged to go with Jesus, but Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return home and tell how much God has done for you." And so the man went away and told all over the town how much Jesus had done for him. We thank God for his words to us. Amen. Friends, I wonder, when you have people round to visit and you know they are coming, what preparations would you make? If you know someone's come round to visit, what preparations would you make? I suppose it depends on who is visiting. I mean, if it's friends who know you well, they'll accept your house as it is, with very little tidying. Trust me, our house is not always tidy. But if it's your mother-in-law, coming to round, well, that involves a whole lot of tidying, a whole lot of cleaning, tidying, cleaning, more tidying, on a scale that I have to confess at times approaches a royal visit. But my friends, I wonder, what if Jesus came to visit you? What would you do? And how would you feel? Would you be excited and honoured? Perhaps making preparations similar to those made when the Queen visits around the country? Yes, if Jesus came to visit, would you be comforted and uplifted by the possibility of a visit from the one who seems so loving, so kind, so compassionate? Or would you be anxious, uneasy? Perhaps you would be hurrying around indeed, doing that extra cleaning or tidying, straightening the house out. Would you prepare a special meal? Perhaps you might go out and buy a new outfit. Yes, what would you do? What would you do if Jesus came to visit you? Now, in our passage from Luke's Gospel, Jesus pays a visit to the country of the Gerasenes, a Galilean region across the Sea of Galilee. Now, Jesus comes as he always does in Luke's Gospel with authority and with power. Jesus comes as he always does in Luke's Gospel with authority and power as God's Son. And his imminent reign here on earth is at hand. His imminent reign here on earth is at hand. The result being that when Jesus comes to visit, it is no longer business as usual. For when Jesus comes, when Jesus is present, people and conditions are challenged, upset, transformed. When Jesus comes, it is no longer, my friends, business as usual, because people and conditions are challenged, upset, and transformed. Hallelujah. Now, the man. The man that we meet, well, how can I put this? Well, when we first meet this man who is demon-possessed, he's naked. He has no clothes on at all. He appears to, yes, be crazed. And he comes at Jesus from his home amongst the tomb, perhaps we might call it the local cemetery, and he is shouting at Jesus, "Leave me alone," he's saying. "Do not torment me." Now, in Luke's Gospel, we learn as the story unfolds that it is not really the man who speaks, but those demons that are within him. And those demons are trying to bargain with Jesus, the Son of God, for they know who Jesus is. He is the Son of God, and he has the authority and he has the power as the Son of God. And his power and authority is and will always be over and above all things. And so these demons, they're afraid. Again, as the drama of the gospel unfolds, Jesus sends these demons to their destruction, and he restores the man to health and wholeness. For here in this passage, we see the transforming power of God at work. My friends, the dramatic change in this troubled man's life is the kind of transformation sung about, I think, by the band U2. I quite like my music, some of you might know that already, and U2 is one of my favourite bands. Well, in their song, Love, when love comes to town, the verse tells the story of a life marked by betrayal, confusion, and loss, and lostness. But it also speaks of a life changed when it is confronted by a great and robust love. I did what I did before love came to town, so says the chorus. And love did come to town, and that singer's life is transformed in the song. Well, love came to town. Love came to town for the man in our passage from Luke. In fact, the healed man might well have sung that song if you two had been around 2,000 years ago about that transformation when love came to town. Now, it must be said that the reactions to this visit of Jesus is swift and intense. You see, the demons realize immediately that they are in the presence of a greater power than their own. You see, they represent the forces of evil and oppression and darkness that are still active in our world today, but they are forces that tremble before the power of God's presence in Jesus, his Son. Now, my friends, most striking to me of all reactions is, well, the reaction of the people in the area where Jesus is to this healing of a man who'd been, yes, their neighbour, probably rather estranged because of him being possessed. And you might think that as Jesus had brought about a wondrous transformation, had brought about healing, they would have been happy that this man who had caused them so much trouble is now sane and whole, and so they might throw a party. They might celebrate this miracle of God's love. And they might hurry around and bring other friends, other people who are in need before this Jesus who can bring healing through his authority and his power. But in the passage, well, we don't see a party. We don't see a celebration. In our reading from Luke, in fact, these people are seized, gripped with fear. Others suggest that they were in a state of panic, for they are scared, and they therefore ask Jesus to leave that town, to leave their community. Now, I'm sure that to many of us, that must seem rather an odd response to what Jesus has most wonderfully done. For the locals they act as if they're scared. But why? Why are they scared? Well, perhaps they're fearful that if Jesus hangs around too long, they won't be able to make a living. I mean, after all, he's just sent a big part of the local economy, into the lake. Those pigs. Yes, the unsettling power of Jesus, you see, I believe extends beyond wallets and economic systems. It extends into every area of life, our lives. And therefore the fear that these people have may be about more than the possibility of no longer having a job. For if Jesus has the power over the forces of the world that oppress and bind, if Jesus can heal somebody like the long-suffering man in our text, destroying a pig industry business along the way, what might he do next? What might this man Jesus do next? For who? Who is safe from such power, such authority? And what if I don't want my life upset, turned around, transformed? What if I prefer to remain in my comfortable, familiar pattern of living? And so, Jesus, please leave. Please go. Now, there's a story about a farmer who had a few animals that were kept in a rather old, drafty and leaking barn. He was concerned for his animals' welfare, and so he built a new barn for them. He tore down the old barn and was comforted to know that, well, if a storm came, that the animals would be safe inside. No drafts, no leaks, etc., etc. Well, one day a storm came to that area, and the farmer went down to the barn to look on in his animals and to be content that they were safe from harm. But he was shocked to discover that the barn door had been left unlatched, and all the animals had left this wondrous, undrafty, unleaky barn, and they were huddled beneath the foundations of the old, familiar barn. My friends, often to us it seems easier to hold on to what we know than to face the new. My friends, often it seems easier to hold on to what we know than face the new. But when Jesus comes to visit, he comes with the possibility of new beginnings. But that transformation and healing will mean the end of other beginnings, the end of old ways of living. Yes, my friends, when Jesus comes, new beginnings, new transformation is available. New ways of living become apparent. The old ways are to be left behind. Now, for the people of the Gerasene region, well, that was too much to ask. And so, as I said, they asked Jesus to leave. Friends, if truth be told, this fear of the new is not confined to this passage in Luke's Gospel. Because I believe that we see it in the life of individuals, even in the life of the church, that clings to old patterns of ways, of living and of being. Even when it's clear that those old patterns are not life-giving. And if Jesus comes to visit, offering the new and the possibility of the new, bringing his power and authority and his transformation, we might well ask him to leave like the Gerasenes did, because we're afraid. We're afraid of what he might do to our old familiar ways. And I think that's a real challenge to us in this present time, that God may well be calling us to leave old and familiar ways, to acknowledge his power, his transformational power, and to do new things. To conclude, my friends, there is one other reaction to Jesus' visit in our story, and that is the man who's healed. There's one other reaction to Jesus' visit story, and that is of the man who's healed. For this powerful Jesus, this man of power and authority, God's Son, had given this man back his life. For far from being a naked, howling, tormented man who lived in the graveyard, he now has been changed. He's been transformed. He's now clothed, and he sits at the feet of Jesus and listens to what Jesus is saying. Amazing, wonderful, astounding. But this I believe is what God can do when love comes to town. Not just 2,000 years ago, but what God can do today. Accordingly, the healed man is so grateful that he pleads with Jesus to be allowed to go with Jesus to Galilee. But at Jesus' direction, he's told to go home. And he goes home as an evangelist, as a messenger, as a preacher to his hometown, and he is bursting with the good news of what Jesus has done for him when love came to town. Now, friends, if fear is our response to the power of Jesus and to the possibility of new life, I imagine this man saying to you and me, I understand your fear. I understand your fear, but don't be too quick to send Jesus away. You see, I wouldn't go back to who I was before Jesus came for anything. So trust Jesus to make the best of your life. My friends, will we choose to trust in Jesus when he comes to town? When he comes to us and offers us new ways of being and living of his transformational and wondrous love. My friends, you never know when or where Jesus is going to turn up. He might just come to visit you or me with an offer of healing, a new way of life, a new way of living, but with that power of his Spirit to enable us to do it. I want to encourage you and me to be open to what Jesus might do in us as his love comes to town. May we choose to live to Christ's praise and glory. Thanks be to God. Amen. Friends, I want to thank you for listening and offer you and those you love now a blessing. May the blessing and peace of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit be with you and those that you love this day and always. Amen. Thank you, friends. Goodbye.